same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Good evening, good people. Welcome back to another Boss Conversations with Janeah. Today I have a different talk, one that I haven't had before, but I'm really excited about this because right now, one of the biggest issues that we all have is money. Money, money, money. Everything is inflated with our prices, but the pay wages aren't going up. So I thought it would be great to bring on somebody who talks about money and about finances and the things that are going on with money right now. So, without any further ado, I would love to welcome my guest, Mr. Frank Money Talk. Hello, Frank. How are you?
Hey everybody, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. I think this is definitely a well needed conversation. Um, so yeah, I think the people will get a lot of good info out of this. So let me start off by asking you, where are you from and what do you do? What do you specialize in? What boss hat do you wear?
I like that a lot. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was born in Oakland, California, and I moved back to the area a few years ago. And I help people retire with dignity. And so I took those lessons that I was learning working with people who were retiring, 60, 70 years old, and I started bringing them to people of younger and younger ages. And now I'm an author, a speaker. I've got a blog, and I work with children of all ages, college students, and all the way up to retirees.
Wow, that is dope. And to bring the elders with the youth, that's really good because you can't buy wisdom. You can't buy it. So that's one thing we always get from our elders. And it's not until we're a little bit older that we understand that. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that you're bridging that gap. When did you learn yourself like that understanding these things and understanding money is important?
Mm. Yeah, I think growing up, you start to learn, especially when you hit middle school. In elementary school, you don't notice as much, but I think middle school is where that gap starts to be felt and seen. You start to see kids who have, the nicer shoes, the nicer clothes. They're wearing cologne in sixth grade, and then you're over here with your Payless shoes, and you're wondering why does it seem like everybody else has things and I don't. So definitely at a young age, I started to realize, being born of parents who were in high school. I actually went to my dad's high school graduation. I was like 2 days old, and so you start to learn pretty early that there are people that have the things, and then there's you. So it was an early age for me.
Okay. And how long have you been working with your program now with what you're doing when it comes to teaching people about so it's about like you teach people about retirement,
Mhm.
financial responsibility and things of that nature?
Yeah, I started in 2006. So when I was 17, I joined the
Oh,
Marine
wow.
Corps. And in 2006, I got out for a little bit, and I didn't have a college education. I was broke. I was making a little bit of money, but there's no one there that's telling you like how to manage your money or how does credit work or anything like that. You're constantly on the move. And so when I got out, I was looking for something where I didn't need a college degree, where I could learn for myself how to be better with money and have some upside career wise. And so as that time went on, I would just get so many questions. And eventually, I had a teacher who was a client of mine, and they said, "Hey, can you come talk to our class?" And that's where it started, because once you start volunteering and doing things in the school, it's like another teacher says, "Well, hey, I have a question," or "Hey, can you come talk to this thing or that thing or other school?" And it really took off from there.
Oh, awesome. Starting in the schools, yeah, I know how that is. And my daughter was a Marine as well. So
Oh,
when
wow, what are
she
the odds of
got,
that?
yeah, I know. I know. So when she got out, it's so funny because we talk now about money, about money
Mm.
and how important it is for her to maintain her credit and stuff like that. And I was just all over her credit while she was in the Marines, just making sure I was checking
Wow.
all the time, making sure she wasn't just doing stupid stuff, or at least if she did, that I could catch it and talk to her and explain why it was a bad move. it's a lot. Parents, we can't give up on our kids on teaching them the ropes of life just because they turn 18 or they leave up
Hmm.
out of your house, because we know we were dumb at that age. Well, not let me say not dumb. That's not a good word. We weren't that intelligent.
Hmm.
We weren't
Yep.
that intelligent. We didn't know that much. So when it comes to the youth, what are three important things that you think that someone between the ages of 18 and 25, maybe three like important tips or something that you could give them that can kind of help them kickstart this journey into a better
Hmm.
financial future?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so, right off the top of my head, I'm thinking credit, as you already hinted at, how to manage debt, and then how to start saving for retirement. And so, I know that sounds kind of crazy, and even earlier, before 18, I'm thinking 15, 16, because a lot of students these days have a job, maybe it's part time, and they don't know that they can actually start contributing to their retirement. And so if you have earned income, I don't want to, everyone needs to do their own research. I'm not making any specific recommendations to any one person. But for a young adult, someone that's working, they need to look into something called a Roth IRA. So it's spelled ROTHIRA. And I'll get back to why that's important later in the conversation, I think. But people don't realize, especially when you're young, your greatest asset besides your attention is your time. And so if you start contributing right away, even if you never contributed again, let's say you only did it for 5 or 10 years, you're still going to be ahead of someone who's in their 40s or 50s, because they've got to contribute a whole much more money to catch up to where you're at, because you have that time. And so to kind of go back to the first thing I said with credit, I tell this to I go to high schools all the time. I'm talking with students, especially in more diverse communities. Again, I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a 16, 17-year-old's credit report, and they have identity theft, they have wrong names, wrong addresses, they have a cable bill or a light bill or a phone bill in their name. And so, anyone hearing this probably knows what I'm talking about. That you don't really need to speculate. But what happens is that maybe the bill got shut off, or maybe someone started using their social. It was sold on the dark web, and so someone's been working using their social, running up debt, or the lights got shut off, and now the parent needs to get it turned back on. Well, whose name did they put it under? They put it under the kids, and so not faulting anyone, not trying, but that still needs to be dealt with. And so
Right.
I encourage kids. It's annual credit report. I'll look up the website now while we're talking, but there is a specific website that is ran by the government. And so it's annualcreditreport.com is the website that I recommend. Stay away from like the Credit Karmas and these third parties that are saying, oh, we can give you your credit score. A majority of the time they're wrong, and they're trying to sell you something. So there was a big scandal where uh, they were using your information. Of course, they're selling it, and you don't know where, but they're telling you things that are not true. And so you're going and apply for cards, or you're going out trying to get a loan, and they're trying to funnel you into getting certain types of loans with certain companies, and it's not good at all. So to kind of step back to what I was saying with the credit, young people should get on there, get help from an adult if you need it. Check your credit report, and you can start building credit right away. And so again, why that's important, these days a job will check your credit report, and so you're going to be barred from opportunities to be able to grow, especially with inflation. I know we're going to talk about inflation. You need to earn more income. If you have a ceiling on you, there's a lid on you because your credit's bad, you will never get ahead, and the inflation will keep getting worse, because that inflation, things are just going to keep going up. You have to be able to bring in additional income, and having good credit, believe it or not, is a big part of that. And so, what's the biggest thing? Whether you go into the military or you go to college, right away you're starting to get hammered with offers for debt. Okay, I meet a lot of military folks that they want to get a nice, fancy, fast car. This is the first time that they've got money in their pocket, and on the college campus, they're handing out credit cards left and right. There's
Yeah.
student loans, and so think about it. I mean, we are asking young people, 17 and 18 years old, to take on tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to fund their college education, and they don't understand any of it. And so they're already starting. I meet people with even $1 million in student loan debt. I mean, that's a house. Depending on where you live in the country, that's multiple houses that you could own.
Right.
You could be a real estate investor, but you've got student loan debt. And so if you can understand a little bit about, does this even make business sense? Does it make financial sense for me to get this college degree in this degree versus another field of study? Is college even the right path for me? These are all conversations that we need to be having with 14, 15, 16-year olds before they even get into debt, get into these challenges. It's no surprise. I talk a lot about financial wellness because there's different types of wellness. There's spiritual, mental, physical, our relationships. Why are people so stressed out? We know this. It's because of money. Why do people get divorced? It's arguments over money. And so if I can help raise people's financial wellness, the rest of their life is going to be impacted because money flows into everything we
Yes.
do. So I'll take a little pause there before I get back to retirement because I know that was a lot all at once.
Yeah, that was it was a lot. And the student loan thing issue subject, I think is very important to talk about because acquiring student loan debt has become a generational curse, in my
Mm,
opinion.
wow.
Okay, so let me say that, in my opinion. Um, because some people will just tell their kids, hey, just go get student loans or get whatever, that you could get. Whereas you can have you can have your education paid for without a loan. There are all kind of grants and scholarships out here, but it takes a lot more work. To get a student loan, all you have to do is enter your FAFSA, let them say, I'll give you this, you sign it, and that's it. A lot of the scholarships and grants that they have out here, a lot of them are gender specific, cultural
Hmm.
specific, all kind, educational specific, no matter what you're doing. But a lot of them, you gotta write an essay, you might have to fill out a whole packet and things of that nature. But I think it is important that parents actually, I think it's even important that they have a class in high school about this, and they offer a workshop with parents and students so parents can understand to push their students, their children, to try to get grants and scholarships versus student loans. But also, we also have to talk about, I just also want to cover, there are people out here who they're just not that savvy to do all of that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
But they want to go to college, their parents can't afford it, and what do they do? I lived off of student loans. I'm not gonna lie. That's why I didn't want my daughter to do it, because I lived off of student loans. I got all this. I was kicking back like $7,000 a semester between grants and student. I didn't need the student loans. Now that I'm older, now I know, because I had Pell Grant. I had all of that. It paid for school already. But I kicked back the rest of that money, and I would pay my rent up for like 6 months at a time so me and my daughter would have somewhere to stay.
Mm.
So I'm only saying that to say that if you have to choose that route, make sure you choose that route as far as getting student loans. Make sure you choose it to sustain yourself, or that you make sure that that investment is going to help you in the long run. Not just to get a car, not just to party on campus and things of that nature. But that's just my opinion, you guys, because you guys know I'm not a financial expert. But just from me, myself, and what I went through, I didn't want my daughter to go that same path. And when she came to me and said, would you be upset with me if I told you I didn't want to go to college? It's like,
Mm.
no, because I've always told her, I don't care if you want to be a mascot. Be the best mascot they got out there, because I really just want you to be happy in whatever you choose for life. College isn't for everybody. So she
Hmm.
said, I want to go to the military, to the Marines, and then maybe I'll go to college. I felt like that was a great idea because they will pay for your college. So you don't have to worry about, racking up all those student loans and things of that nature. Just make sure, people, that you talk to your kids about all the options that are out there, and that you are open to listen to your kid and their needs. I had to have, I mean, I couldn't even tell most of my family members that my daughter joined the Marines until afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't, until after she signed her papers. I didn't want anybody to talk her out of what she wanted to do, and family, especially with a female, we don't
Mm-hmm.
want our daughters going to the Marines out of all branches.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my opinion. But we can go ahead and talk about the Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I touched on anything that you want to elaborate or correct, let
Yeah.
me know. But yeah,
Absolutely elaborate on. There was so much that you said there. So I want to encourage anyone watching this, go grab a pen and paper and take some notes because you will forget, just like we all do, right? We get busy. And
right.
definitely watch this again and reach out if you have any questions. Because
Yes.
I really, that was such a great bit that you said about student loans or the new generational curse. Because you got to think about, I have a history degree from Berkeley. Okay. I had a scholarship. I was going to wrestle in college. Instead, again, I joined the military when I was 17. And then I came back around. But people said the same thing. Oh, well, don't throw college away. That's their beliefs, not mine. College is always going to be there, right? It's a huge institution. It's always going to
Right.
be there. They're always going to want your money. They're always going to want more of it. It's not it's not going anywhere. But the grants and scholarships, the challenge that I see is a lot of parents just aren't savvy. Because you got to think about, like, how do we set our kids up for success? Well, we used to think if we're all working in a factory, which is where basically all of us were over the last 100 years, if you saw that, oh, the guy with the degree or the guy that got more training, he's the manager, what are you going to tell your kids? Don't work 60 hours a week on the floor. Go get your degree and become a manager. That's how you come up. And so that was old thinking. We're not working in factories the same way we were 100 years ago. This is not the industrial
Right.
revolution. It's the
Right.
digital revolution. And so you have to be thinking generations ahead, not just what you think your generation, the generation before was using to get ahead. And so that's where the big challenge is, especially for minorities, folks of color, however you would like to describe that us or that community or your community. And so if you don't know as a parent, you don't have to figure it out all yourself. And that's especially with money. There's so much shame because you don't want to share about money because you're not so great with money a lot of times, is
Right.
what people tell
Right.
me. Or you're ashamed of something that you did, or the way things went, or you got a bankruptcy, or you got credit charge offs, all this other stuff. Get resources outside of you. No one's asking you to do it all on your own. There are schools that are doing some of these classes, but not every school. And that's okay. We have this thing called
Right.
the internet. We have mentors. We have lots of people out here. You just have to have some discernment to know who to listen to and who to say, oh, okay, that's not really for me.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people out there who are regurgitating information that, is detrimental actually to your success. So you have to have some discernment there. Don't just follow one person, especially if they're just a talking head on the internet. But as far as getting back and why that's so important, once you can get your budget right and your credits right, and when we're saving for retirement, this Roth IRA, the reason why it's so powerful is, I'll just start here. If I ask 100 people, hey, are taxes going to be the same now or higher in the future? I've been asking people this question since 2006. So, that's a long time. Nobody ever tells me, oh, it's going to be lower or the same. Everyone says taxes are going to be higher in the future. If you think about, I graduated in 2001, the things that have happened since that time. I was in boot camp when 9/11 happened. The whole world changed. The dot-com bubble burst in 2000, right?
Right.
2008, we're talking about the huge recession. Everyone's losing their houses. There's so many things that have happened. And think about all the money that was printed in the last couple of years to be handing out stimulus checks and bailing out businesses and airlines. Think about, where did all that money come from? They just printed it. And we know the more of something there is, the less valuable it is. And so that's where so many people, especially of the older generations, are getting crushed financially because they put their money under the mattress. They put it into very safe things like a savings account or a bank CD. They're distrustful of banks, and for especially folks from the minority population. And I don't blame them. But what I'm saying is, when you pass that on to the next generation, you're setting them up for failure. because inflation is the cost of things getting more and more expensive over time. The government's plan is for that to happen. It's out of control right now, so they're trying to bring the inflation rate
Yes.
down. But that's the plan. Those are the rules of the game. They're making things more expensive over time. And so you could have had a job. There wasn't too long ago that making $20 an hour was a big deal. That's not going to cut it. You're not even going to be able to pay your rent making $20 an hour these days. And that's unfortunate, but that's the truth.
Yep. Yeah.
And so if you can't even pay, I once sat with someone who said, well, I don't even make enough to save anything. And that's where so many more, that was years ago. How many people are saying that right now? Literally millions,
Right.
hundreds of millions. And that's just in the United States. And so you've got to be able to increase your income and put that money into the Roth IRA, because the most important thing about this is you will not pay taxes on that money when you go to access it. Think about what taxes are now, especially here in California. We have some of the highest tax rates in the country.
Yes.
What are taxes going to be like 30 years from now when I want to go retire, as an old person? If it's bad now, what's it going to be later? And so that's what's so important for people to understand. I'm not saying don't do a 401k, which is through your job. And so that's the next thing, sort of like the other option. If you're not so good at building your saving habits, sign up for your 401k at work and have it come out automatically. Then the money's going to be taken out. You're not going to even have the ability to touch it. But again, the problem with that is there's pros and cons. That money will be taxed at whatever the rate is later on. And that means you're probably going to actually pay more in taxes than you ever saved, assuming all
Oh,
things being
wow.
equal. So I'll take a pause there.
Yeah, that's the thing about 401ks is, boy, do they tax you when
Mm-hmm.
you have to go in there and get it. And so I'm glad you explained about the Roth IRA, because I myself have heard of it, but I didn't understand that portion, that
Mm-hmm.
when you go access the money later, you're not taxed on it. Are you taxed on the bracket that you came in
Exactly.
under?
Yeah.
Okay, and it stays that
Um,
way.
exactly. So by the time you get your, for most people, especially young people, they don't understand like their check, and it's like you're not making $20 an hour, you're getting like 13 or 14. But by the time all the
Right.
taxes and the Social Security stuff comes out, and so you've already been taxed on that money, and so that's your money, and you're putting it into a vehicle that's going to be tax free in the future. And so that's a great point. That's why it's that way.
Okay, cool. Now you did mention, which is so true. So many people right now are like, I don't have the money to save. Especially now, the cost of living has gone up so drastically over the past 3 years. Someone told me, a friend of mine that lives in Georgia told
Mm,
me that they have been leasing a house for, I think, 8 years, right? Last year, the landlord came to them and told them that they were going to increase their rent by 400. Then this year, they're getting ready to approach a new lease, and the landlord told them he's increasing it by another 400. So to do an $800 increase within 2 years on a 5-bedroom house with someone who has 4 kids and a wife, he's just like, he's stuck, because one thing he can't do right now is move,
no.
because he cannot afford, even if he moves to house all the people that's in his house, he's still going to pay more than what that rent increase was.
Hmm.
But he's not making substantially more money at his career, and nor is his wife. Well, do you have any advice for people that's in these situations? What kind of things that they could do to kind of help them be more secure in any way?
Mm. Yeah, and it's so unfortunate that that is a story that I'm hearing and that so many Americans are going through. Because and I see it from both sides. They have expenses too. Whoever owns the house. At the same time, many people have taken advantage of that, especially over the
Yeah.
last couple of years. And so there are state laws. If anyone's being evicted, I would definitely reach out to your city and state and try to find some rental assistance and make sure that they're doing things all above board. But as I mentioned, things are going to keep getting more expensive. And so if your current opportunity, whatever's paying you, is not paying you enough, then you have to either be leveling up your skill set somehow to become more valuable, and you need to step out to the side and be creating a side income, and maybe multiple. And I know that's not easy. It's easier said than done, right? Because we're already, exhausted and there's so much going on. But it's not, there's no magical fix. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be difficult, but it's going to continue to get more difficult. Just like you mentioned, student loan debt. You either do the work now to get grants and scholarships, or you do the work later, paying back the bank for the rest of your life. And it's a harsh reality, but that's where we live. If someone knows a different system, knows a different method, let me know. I'll vote for you. But you have to create another source of income. And a lot of times, I did a challenge where I said, hey, in 10 days, I can start you from scratch and you can make $1,000 extra this month. And so that was 2 months ago. It was the holidays. Everyone could use another $1,000. I mean, that's life-changing income, because we always say, oh, it takes money to make money. And that can be true for sure, especially if we're trying to scale a business. But if you're just trying to make a little bit of money on the side, there's so many things you could do. You can mow lawns, you can walk dogs. I mean, we have this great source of information on the internet where it's easier than ever for someone to step forward and create something for themselves. Because if you're working at a job, you're building something for someone else. Maybe it's a small business, but most likely it's a nameless, faceless corporation, and they only have one goal: maximize profit, not for you, but for themselves.
Right.
And if we're talking about generational curses and being able to break that, how do you build something that, even if your family doesn't want to take over the business when it comes time to transition, what can you take and extract out of that, whether it's income or assets, or sell the business to be able to pass on? And let's say it took you 10, 20, 30 years. 10, 20, 30 years is going by no matter what. We can't stop the time. We can't stop the prices increasing, but you can control what you're doing during that time. And so I know it's difficult, but it starts with very basic steps, and starts with being intentional. And it's those small habits. Everyone says, well, you got to take massive action to get to where you want. Let's say you wanted to make another $5,000 a month. It's true, it takes massive action. You can't just sit on the couch all day, but that's broken up into tiny steps. It's getting enough sleep, which I know doesn't seem to correlate maybe directly. It's getting enough exercise, because we're talking about wellness. Every morning, writing out. It's what people say, oh, okay, on my to-do list is I'm going to write a book. Write a book today? That's on your to-do list? It's not going to happen. But what if you said, hey, today I'm going to write 500 words, or I'm going to write 100 words or 50 words. And every day you wrote 50 words. Every week you could put out a blog post. That's more than enough content once you edit it down. And so it's just those keeping small promises to yourself, is building trust with yourself. You don't have to come up with $5,000 today, but you need to write those 50 words. And so getting very strategic. And I know that's not, again, a magic answer. I can't put money in everyone's pocket, but you can start to build towards something for you, for your family, because the time is going to go by anyway, and build on the skills that you have and be willing to be uncomfortable. And so as we sort of like transition out of this topic, so many people are afraid of putting themselves out there. Either, they don't feel humble enough, or they're worried about what people are going to think, like, oh, they think I'm broke, or they think I need help, or, oh, they know me as this thing over here, and now I'm coming on here trying to be an influencer, or now I'm saying I'm an author, or now I'm talking about whatever. People will talk about you no matter what. I mean, anybody who's put themselves out there, you could be handing out free money, okay, and people will still criticize you. Some people will say, oh, well, $50, that's not enough. Give them 100. Why are you being so stingy? Or no, you shouldn't hand out money. Then people are going to be dependent on you, right? I mean, we hear all this garbage out there, this noise, this head trash. People are going to criticize you no matter what. You're going to suffer in some way no matter what. Would you rather suffer with the rent coming up every month, almost to the point you're drowning, or would you rather be uncomfortable and have something to show for it? And so that this year, what I want for people, and what people want for themselves, this is the year that everyone's realizing they've got to they've got to get something for it. They've been in pain, they've been suffering. A lot of people have been traumatized, especially over the last couple of years. Everything's been piling up. Get something for your pain. Get something for your struggle. You absolutely deserve it. And you've got to put in the work, and that's the good news, because it's not
Yeah.
going to get handed to you, and you're going to have earned it. And who you become in earning it is going to be way more valuable than that extra $1,000, $5,000, $50,000 a month that you wanted.
Wow. Get something for your pain. Oh, that is a good statement right there. Get something for your pain. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind when I know that I need to be on this computer doing some content work and things like that, because there are times that I'm in here delirious as hell, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I have to get this done. Like if I don't get this done today, it's going to mess up the rest of the week because it's going to throw
Mm-hmm.
off my schedule and things of that nature. So I like that you're saying that. Get something for your pain, because people, that is the truth. And so, what kind of pain are you putting yourself in? And what are
Mm-hmm.
you looking to get out of that pain? Because people put themselves through all kind of silly pain. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's all they get from it is pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I like that statement. You guys are getting all kind of gems on here, but transitioning out of that little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember when I was growing up, when I started getting allowance, and I remember when I hit a certain age, and my mom was like, "You gotta learn how to be responsible for your money." So it's certain things I'm not gonna buy you anymore, like deodorant and the soap I like to use and things like that. She's like, "You
Mm-hmm.
get allowance, and you got to figure out how to do what you want to do with your money, but what I'm making you do, which is like a responsibility, because you got to
Mm-hmm.
wash yourself, have to take care of your hygiene." Like she didn't make me buy clothes, but it was just like a little bit of responsibility and knowing you got to eventually support yourself. So the question to you is, what do you think is the best age to start talking to your kids about money awareness, financial awareness, and maybe if you could give an example of how somebody, I just gave one, whether you elaborate on giving or give another one, an example as to how people can execute when they do
Mm-hmm.
start.
Yeah, I really like that story. And there was some, I don't know where your mother got it, got that insight from, as far as like sharing that with you and instilling that in you. But I wish more parents would do that, because it's such a, I don't even know
It's
the word again.
minute. It's
Yeah,
minute.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
it's like
exactly.
such a
Because
minute
there's
thing, but
needs and
it's
wants. Exactly. So just talking about needs and wants, because there's different types of soap. There's cheap soap that'll get the job done, and then maybe there's the nice soap that you would like to have. And so you've got to decide. Like I usually tell people, when you make a budget, what's the bare minimum you could get by, what's more comfortable, and then what are you striving toward. That way, especially if you're self-employed. I mean, how many folks their income is up and down in their business, especially when they're first getting started. You got to know how to budget for those lean months and know how much it's going to take you to keep the mission going until you get to where you want to be. So as far as how old should those conversations start, kids even in preschool age, we're talking 2, 3, 4 years old, believe it or not, understand money. Because money is sort of a language, but really it's just an energy. It's just like any other type of energy. It came from, not necessarily paper. A lot of it's actually printed on cotton now, but there was a process to make the money. It's just printed paper, right? There was a process that you had to go through. You exchanged your energy and time to get that money. And so it's just a form of energy. And so that's why kids can understand it, just like they understand emotions, just like they understand body language. There's things that we just get. And so you could start. I mean, how many times have you seen a kid crying for something at the cash register and the parents are saying they can't have it? And maybe a parent said, "Oh, we can't afford that." I can't tell you how many times I've heard a parent say that in the store. Or, "No, you've been bad. You don't get to have that." Those get internalized. You may not think it does, but if you're telling a 3-year-old that, that's when they're the most open to being influenced. By 7, 8, 9, 10, it's not you influencing your kids anymore. It's their peers. That's why so many
right.
kids in middle school get in trouble, because they're falling in with a different group and they're not
Right.
being raised with the same sort of values maybe that your kids are, and now you see their personality and their behaviors change. And so early, and it doesn't have to be this big magnanimous thing. You start small. You mentioned, the choices that you were able to make. I think that's super important. I say involve kids in back to school shopping. Say, hey, we have a budget of $200, or we have a budget for this, or hey, I'm going to buy some of these things. I'm going to give you a little bit of money, and you decide, should you spend it all on the most expensive pair of shoes and it's all gone, or should you break it up a little bit and maybe get some more options, or even thrift stores. I don't know, depending on where you live, there may not be anything good like that, but start to learn some of those things, because there's only so many things you can do with money, right? I mean, you can spend it, you can save it, you can invest it, or you could give it away. And so that's the big thing I talk about kids, concepts. I haven't said a whole lot of like, hey, you watching this, you need to do exactly that. When we work out the mindset and the concepts, you intuitively, based on your values, religious or otherwise, will figure out what's right for you. But we're talking about concepts. And so you can share those concepts with your kids. You could say, hey, here's 20 bucks, or I got birthday money. What am I going to do with it? And encourage that. I think an allowance is really powerful, but you got to decide, what's the intention behind it. Is it money that you're just going to give to the kid and they can do whatever they want with it? Is it money tied to chores and they have to do the chores? Is it like, you could do the chores and you're going to get this money, but if you want more money, you're going to have to do more. You're going to have to start working for that. And so whatever it is, you just need to be on the same page, especially you and your spouse need to be on the same
Right.
page and be consistent. Don't give them the money one day and then not give them the next week. And then they're wondering, wait, I did the work. How come I didn't get the money? See, all these things again start to program them. Oh, I wasn't good, so I don't deserve it. Oh, we can't afford it. Oh, I got the money and I worked hard, but then next week I worked hard and I didn't get the money. These are all things that are so simple and maybe you don't even notice, but your kid notice. They notice everything.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
People at that age buy the fake registers with the little play money that kids
Yeah.
play with. And I employ you guys that are listening that have little kids, and when you buy them those things, go around the house and find different objects and put price
Mm.
tags on them and give them a certain amount of money and let them decide what's the most important thing that they could buy back from you, that they could buy from you. They pick some good things in your house and teach them how to manage money. There's a lot of fun ways you guys can like
Mm.
play with your kids with money, but when they get older, all these things will come back around to them and it'll make them better as a whole, because they'll remember like, hey, I remember when I was 6 years old, I did this drill with my mom, and all the money that she gave me, I was so stupid.
Mm.
I bought the box of cake mix because I was thinking about a cake, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think about the shoes that she put there. How was I
No.
going to walk outside and get to the store? I didn't think about, so you guys got to make sure that you really teach kids that about responsibility, like you said before, needs and wants, because a lot of people grow up and when their parents have just given them everything, and they get out here in the world and realize they have to fight and work for
Mm.
everything, they become bitter, they become scorned. They get to a point where they don't care about their financial situation. They don't care about credit or anything because all they care about is how to get by. And we got to break these chains, especially within the minority communities. And I'm saying communities because pretty much all people of color, especially in the United States, we lack financial structure. We
Mm-hmm.
lack financial um, intelligence. And a lot of us, I want you guys to not feel guilty about that. I had to realize that my mom didn't know how to guide me through college because she never went. So when I went and got all those scholarships and I was paying my bills and all of that, she thought it was great because I was sustaining myself. But at the end of the day, it wasn't great. I mean, it was great. It kept a roof over my head. But if my mother had more knowledge, then I probably would have been able to take a better route and not have all of that money that I owed the government at the end of the day. So it is important we start as young as possible. But even if you can't catch them at 6 or 7, start at 12, 13, 14. If you have to, start in high school, but start. Don't let your kids just go out here in this world and they have no type of financial responsibility. Even I remember I had a friend whose father used to make her sit down with him while he was writing out his bills. He
Mm.
would show her his bank account, his checkbook, because back then it was all about writing the checks he showed her how to balance a checkbook. And I remember her saying to me like, um, we was out shopping and she said, "Girl, I gotta hold on because I gotta write this in my checkbook so
Oh
the
wow.
balance isn't off." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "I never used that thing. I didn't know how to use the ledger in a checkbook." She taught me because her dad taught her. But
Mm.
her dad said, "Look, I don't want you to, another good thing, I don't want you to depend on a man. I want you to know how to
Mm.
pay your bills, want you to know how to budget, how important it is." So I'm just giving that just to say, as another example for some of you that you can actually incorporate. Don't be, we're usually embarrassed about our money situations and things like that. So we don't bring our kids in. Bring your kids in because they need to learn that this is where they don't want to be or how to maneuver through this if they are in this situation when they get older. That's my little spiel, guys. I think it's important that we incorporate our kids in our financial life. It's not easy. It takes a lot of emotional maturity to actually do these things. But I thank you, Frank. This has been good. These are things that our people need to know. So, is there any other advice that you can give to whether it's family, kids, anybody, any last gems you want to throw out there for us to help us out on our financial journey?
Yeah, I really appreciate this time. It's been a lot of fun, and just like you mentioned, make it fun, make the game fun, and learn the rules together. And it's okay to be arm in arm and not have all the answers. You don't have to. And so, yeah, eliminating that shame, you do it by bringing it out in the open and having these conversations and coming together. So we need to be supporting in the communities that we want to enrich, and sometimes that's not spending money. That sometimes that's getting into the school and volunteering in your kid's school, being present, everyone knowing who you are. There's so many opportunities that come from volunteering. You're able to get into rooms that otherwise you wouldn't be able to because you never know who you're going to meet. And so once you learn about that personal credit, it's really important. This is a whole other conversation. Is learning about business credit and how to get, just like you have grants and scholarships to go to school, you can get grants to start your business. And so if that's something you're thinking about, the Small Business Association here in the United States has a program called SCORE, SCORE. They will mentor you. You'll find someone from that will relate to you. So you can request if you want to talk to a man, a woman, a person of color. It is free. They will help you, with your business plan. They'll tell you the direction, that some ideas. They will help you find potential sources for funding and get you up and running. And so there's a ton of resources. You just have to filter out some of the noise and run your race. Don't get caught up. I can't tell you how many people on social media have contacted me that look like they have it all together, that look like they're doing amazing, and behind the scenes it's they're struggling. Either they don't have what they pretend to have, or they're getting it but they don't know how to manage it. So I applaud them for reaching out because, again, don't be ashamed, don't hide it, get it right. But the resources are out there. So I'm always open to answering questions. There's nothing for sale there. I just want to have a conversation. That's what excites me. And so that's why I've been so excited to have this conversation. And I appreciate you having me as a guest today.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate this as well. Maybe we can come back and do another spill and focus more on business and business credit. Although you guys know that I'm all about the bosses, entrepreneurs, and business. I didn't talk a lot about business with Frank because I think it is more important that you have your personal financial life together and that we also focus on getting the youth, the next generation. How can we help them? Because at the end of the day, they're going to run the future corporations, businesses, and things like that. Um, so yeah, maybe we can come back later and kind of focus more on business and whatever kind of financial business advice you can give us.
Hmm.
But you guys know time is always of an essence, so we just can't talk about everything. But this has been good. I definitely appreciate it. Frank, tell the people where they can find you. How can they look you up? How can they get your services?
Yeah, thank you so much. If you follow me on Instagram at Frankmoneytalk, that's the best way to get a hold of me. That's where you're going to get the best sense of what I'm all about, what I like to talk about, where you can direct message me. I've got some books out if that's something that you want to use to help, like a tool to help start that conversation. I sell them as affordably as I can because I want to be able to reach more people. And let's have a conversation. Let's connect. So at Frank Money Talk. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you. Yes, you guys, look, even if you don't reach out to him, go follow him on Instagram. This is how I came across him. And I just love the knowledge that he shares. I personally have gotten a lot from it. And so I was really excited to have him on because he talks in layman's terms.
Hmm.
And for a lot of us, we need that. We don't need the big names and all of this big, highly educated talk because that's what scares a lot of people
Hmm.
as well when they can't understand the conversation. It's very important that our people can understand the conversation. And I know my audience, right? So some of my audience are the people that you're talking about that are on it. They're all over social media, but they don't have it together in the background. So I
Hmm.
think this is important that you guys can hear some of these things. Go back and rewind, take
Hmm.
your notes, and make sure you go follow Frank Money Talks on Instagram so he can continue this educational path for you because he's doing it every day. He's
Hmm.
posting and giving you information. So if you don't have the money to hire him, at least go in there and get those nuggets from him until you can afford to pay him for a personal consultation, you know? But all right, Frank, thank you again for your time. I will be chatting with you. Definitely see you again. And I look forward to speaking with you again.
Yeah, so grateful for today. Thank you so much.
All right. All right, good people. Look, this was awesome. When we're talking about money, it's very important. It's something that we all deal with, have to deal with, gonna deal with for the rest of our lives. Make sure you get your kids on board so they can have a more prosperous financial future. It's very important. And hey, thanks for tuning in again to another good boss conversation.